And then ESPN, it's always like for whatever reason, just like hard to find. I don't know why. All right, there we go.
The NBA app, the NBA website today was so bad.
Yeah, I know. Do you have League Pass?
Yeah,
Like,
it didn't let me use it. Like it was blacking it
really?
out for me. I don't know why.
The fuck?
And
I
it
got
wouldn't even
League.
show the game.
Really? Dude, that's
Yeah,
I got a League Pass like through FanDuel. Like, say like if you
the three
bet
month.
$5 on the NBA, you get 3 months for free. So like, I'm chilling for 3 months.
My friend did that. Well, we like shared a League Pass account last year, but he did that, so I'm just using that. But it wasn't even
Yeah,
letting me.
dude, I've heard like it's just terrible. Like I think on the phone it's terrible. I think on like a console it's
Oh, it
terrible.
sucks. It's really
Really,
bad. I would have thought like after COVID they would have figured it out
I
somehow,
know,
or like
literally,
a
like
little bit at least. It's like that's the perfect opportunity to get people to watch.
it's
But
not
they
hard. MLB does it like
oh
fine.
MLB
Like
TV is perfect. They got
yeah,
that on lock.
and it's not even
Uh,
like anything crazy. It just works. Like
no,
yeah.
it's yeah, it's just I don't I don't get it. I don't get it. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Sideline. My name is Rishioza,
My name's Asher Hire.
and we are back finally with some stuff to talk about with the Nuggets. At the very least, the regular season started. They just beat the Jazz today, I believe 109, 102. I don't know what the final score was officially,
Hmm.
but they won a weird game, but they are 4-0. They look really, really good.
Yeah.
Um, they've won some pretty games like the Lakers and Thunder. They've won some ugly games like this one in Memphis, but 4-0 is 4-0. And Denver finally beat the Chiefs, the Broncos. First time in 8 years.
Yes, sir.
They
Yes,
beat
sir. We are back and we are up. Denver sports right now is up right.
up 4-0.
Nuggets 4-0, as you said. First time in Mahomes' career that he's been beaten. First time since the Super Bowl year that the Broncos have beaten the Chiefs. First time since the Alex Smith days. First time since the fluke Jamal Charles fumble that Bradley Roby picked up and scored for a touchdown. I remember watching that in my living room. Crazy how that's 8 years.
I know.
Um,
I know.
yeah. So
14 years old and a I was 13. I wasn't even 14. I was 13 years old and a eighth grader compared to college seniors now. So
dude, who would have thought, bro? Like you go through the whole like high school, basically all of high school and all of college without seeing the Broncos beat the Chiefs. I mean, that's like insane. Like on the NFL level, that is what's crazy because you can see it in college. Like, okay, Ohio State's clearly the better team against Michigan. Like pretty much every year of those like 8 years that Ohio State beat them. Like, but that's like college. In college, you expect that talent, deficiency. But like in the
and you only play
NFL,
them. You only play them once a year in college.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
once a year.
yeah,
That's it.
that too,
You play
that
them
too.
twice a year, every year. You get a
Yeah,
home and like you get a chance in every single out, like every single atmosphere possible, and you
yeah,
still lose
yeah. And
16 in a
like
row. It's
the talent gap in the NFL is nothing. Like as you see, like literally the Broncos can beat the Chiefs. Like, and they could have beat them at Kansas City just a couple weeks ago.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, great, great win by the Broncos. Do you want to start with the Nuggets or the Broncos?
Let's start with the Nuggets because they played today. We'll get that through, and then we'll talk about the Broncos. There's a lot to talk about on both sides, especially Denver or especially the Broncos, because of the trade deadline coming up, and they're in a weird spot. But we'll start with the Nuggets. They win today. Today was such a weird game. Like I haven't been able to watch every single game. I had to miss the game against Memphis and the game against OKC. Um, but I heard the Memphis game was really ugly, a typical game against Memphis. They just grinded out and they won. This game was like no one on either side wanted to make a free throw. No one on either side was making good decisions with the ball. No one on either side was making threes. It was so weird. But I mean, because they like it's a weird thing if Denver is a championship team. I don't think that still hit me. It's been almost 5 months since they won the championship, and they had the ring ceremony in the banner, everything, and it still is like they're a championship quality team. So when it comes to games like this, ugly games, you're confident that they're gonna be able to pull it out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, that's how I felt. And it was so like Nuggets won the first quarter by 10, and it was like feeling like, okay, they just blew out Oklahoma City. It seems like this team is like just on a completely different level. I thought they were going to come in and like blow Utah out after that first quarter, but Utah was always within. It was always like 12 to 8 points, like the entire game. and the Nuggets couldn't really like pull away. But yeah, as you said, the free throws combined 14 for 32 for the game. Like like what? Less than
Really bad.
50%.
Really, really
I
bad.
mean, I
And then
understand it's the
Jordan
beginning of the
Clarkson had a
season.
possession where he missed
Yeah.
or he got fouled on a three and then he missed all three free throws, but then he got the rebound and they made a three anyway. It was so weird.
Bro,
Aaron
and
Gordon, I don't think made a free throw all game.
dude, Clarkson shoots
Um,
like 90% from the line too. That's what's insane. Like,
yeah, it was good free throw shooters too. Jokic missed a lot. Jamal Murray missed one. John Collins is a good free throw shooter. He went like 0 for 4 from the free throw line. Like they just, I don't know what was in the air at Ball Arena. It was on both rims too. It wasn't just one
yeah,
side. Like it was really, really weird. Um, but I mean, they just look like a championship quality team, and like we know what the stars are going to look like every single time they step out on the court, and they've been really, really solid. Um, Jamal Murray, I thought he had an iffy game today, but he finished with what like 16 and 14. I'm pretty sure he finished with a
yeah.
double double. His playmaking has
He-
been really, really good this season.
right.
He looks like he's taken that leap to a legit point guard alongside Jokic. They both had double doubles. Jokic had a triple double. Finish with that. So, I mean, it's just like there's not much to complain about when you talk about Denver right now. Like
Oh yeah.
it's just
The
very
bench,
smooth sailing.
the bench is what has like stuck out to me. Like the work that we're getting from Zeke Naji, Peyton Watson, Reggie Jackson, Christian Brown, all of them have been solid this entire season. And then Peyton Watson obviously had that tremendous kind of breakout game against OKC, 17 points. Had massive blocks too, and then massive blocks against the Grizzlies too. We know he can come in and do that, and like for him to show off offensively, he's shooting pretty well from three, which is a great sign to see. Let me pull that up right now because yeah, 44% from three. Um, However, I'm trying to just see the totals, but he's 4 for 9 from three. There you go. So small sample size, but
That's what you're asking
he,
for. Like you're asking him to
yeah,
make the open corner threes that he gets. You're not expecting him to be a knockdown shooter, not expecting him to be a guy you're going to get off movement and like run plays for him offensively. But if he can just make the open threes when they're there for him and the flow of the offense, and when he's cutting the rim, that was something we saw last season at the end of the year when he was starting to get minutes. His cuts to the rim are timely. He knows when to make them. And when he's playing with Jokic, he got a couple today. Had some leak outs. His defense was incredible. I thought on Larry Markkinen, who's a big dude. Like Larry Markkinen's tall, he's bulky, he's built, and Peyton
yeah,
Watson's not exactly like the toughest guy. But you could tell the muscle he put on in the offseason that paid off because he wasn't getting like bullied by Markkinen. He's playing his length really well. He didn't allow him to get going in the first half. The second half, Markkinen got going because he's a good player and he's an all star. But
mm,
it wasn't really on Watson. And I thought like we see all the highlight stuff with the blocks and the dunks and the all of that stuff and the steals. But today was more of just okay. He's in the right spots. Maybe he's not going to get a block, but he's playing good defense regardless. It's not going to show up on the stat sheet, but he's playing good defense regardless, and he's
yeah.
just playing the role, which is the kind of the next evolution for him. It's not getting the highlight stuff, it's just being in your role. And I thought he did a great job of that today.
Right, right. Yeah, there it seemed like Aaron Gordon was like in the right spot at the right time. It seemed like for all of his baskets, he was 10 for 12, 21 points. So yeah, maybe against the Jazz, like it's interesting. I wasn't going into this game thinking, Aaron Gordon would have a huge game when you're dealing with Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen and an athletic John Collins in the paint. But they caught him sleeping a few times, especially like a Olynyk baseline. They caught him sleeping. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, it looked great, even though like I was feeling that the Nuggets could pull away. At least they didn't really blow it, and it still felt like they were in like command the entire time, especially with the ball movement. As you said, Jamal 14 assists, 32 assists by the team. So I mean, the ball was flying around pretty well, only 12 turnovers. And yeah, I mean, it really just if you make those free throws, if you go like 14 for 17 from the line, this is a blowout,
Yeah,
and it's 117, 102. I mean, obviously, like you look at them and yeah, they missed 8 free throws too, but um, yeah, just and then Nuggets only 32% from three. Michael Porter only played 19 minutes. That was something that definitely stood out. Christian Brown had 30, so he took most of the kind of small forward minutes there. And Christian, I mean, him
he's
off the
great.
bench has been
Yeah.
spectacular too. against OKC, 13-7-7 off the bench with one steal and one block, absolutely filling it up only in 21 minutes. And then this game had 9-8. I mean, like that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Like that's all you can that's just all you're asking, like out of a role player. It's just someone who can go in there, get some rebounds, get some steals, play good defense, and knock down an open three here or there. Plus, he gives you an added ability of insane athleticism that
Yeah.
is just not replicated by like a lot of NBA players. Like, so he can cut. He's been trying to drive like a little bit. He's kind of missing the layups towards the rim, but I like his aggressiveness and like I feel like he's getting good looks. And he kind of broke down a couple of defenders, if I'm remembering correctly, in that OKC game, just isolating. So
Yeah.
really great to see at a Brown.
Yeah. Like he was one of the guys I really wanted to see in preseason. So it was unfortunate that
Yeah,
he
we
missed
gotta
all of
we
it with the calf injury.
we gotta
But
remember that
he's
like this
still
is this is
getting
right. This is still Brown, and this is still kind of
yeah.
Porter's like preseason too. So
Yeah, they're still knocking off the rust um from the off season. I mean, they've only played 4 games. Preseason was what, 5? So they I still think that they have a little bit more time to ramp up, and I'm sure they weren't practicing as hard as everybody else in training camp either when they were going through those injuries. Um, so I'll give them time. So I'm not worried about Porter. And I'm sure the minutes thing, because it's a back to back, and he's been talking about his ankle still bothering him. Like I'm sure the minutes was because of that. Like they knew, okay, we might not be able to play him as much today back to back. We know his injury history anyway. Early in the season, there's no reason to push it.
right.
So we'll see what the that minutes restriction looks like,
Yeah,
or what
I
the minutes look like on Wednesday against Minnesota. But I mean, especially when Christian Brown's playing as well as he was. I mean, Utah made a run. With about like 9 minutes left in the quarter. Denver called timeout. They were within 5 or they were within 3. It was
yeah,
close.
yeah.
And Christian Brown made like play after play after play for the next few minutes.
Mhm.
So I mean, if he's playing that good, why take him out? Like, there's no reason to bring him out if Brown's playing that good. You're gonna ride the hot hand. Um, and Porter was pretty significantly the fifth best starter on. Like he didn't have a great game anyway. So you're not like,
Right.
okay, we got to get him back in at some point. Got to get him back in at some point. If you're gonna ride the hot hand with Brown, like there's no issue with that. And
Yeah.
Porter's matured enough to be comfortable with that too at this
Yeah,
point.
exactly. Like I'm not worried about that with Porter. This has happened many, many times to MPJ where he just gets benched at the end of games, but or I don't think he was benched, like as you were saying. Um, I don't really think he played that bad. Like he had a nice assist to Gordon where he was driving to the rim and then like dumped it off beautifully to Gordon. And then had a big time three that like Jokic found him on the left wing, kind of late in the game. Um, and he could have had a sequence where like he stayed in front of Jordan Clarkson beautifully on the defensive end, which is just great to see because Clarkson is really quick and fast and stuff. So he had that stop on Clarkson. He went down. He had that, or I think he had that dime to Gordon, and then had the stop on Clarkson. Then came down and then had a three that he shot over one of the tall white men in there, Markkanen or Kessler, and bricked
They
it. But
play the
like
exact same when they're in there. It's really
I know
funny.
they have like the same accessories on and everything, but he missed it. But like if he had made that, that would have been three straight possessions of just like perfect basketball out of Porter.
Yeah,
So I don't think he played poorly in his 19 minutes. It was just that Christian Brown like given this situation, and then yeah, he had 8 boards. Porter did only have one rebound in 19 minutes. Um, so yeah, whatever. But it's not like
no, there's
anything
nothing
to
wrong
look
with it. And
into.
like
Yeah,
Porter's he's not shooting great to start the season, but once again, like he's still injured. He's still trying to ramp up after missing training camp, or after missing preseason. So there's no reason to be concerned about that. But it's not like he's taking bad shots. He's not forcing
yeah,
anything. He's taking good looks in the flow of the offense. They're just not going in. And he has an incredible track record of being an elite shooter. So you're not going to get
right.
worried about stuff like that. You just got to take your time with it. And I feel like Nuggets fans are so used to like overreacting about things, especially in this last few seasons where you're like, oh my God, like you got to win a championship, you got to do this, got to do this. Now you can take a step back and relax. And when you think about these things, like,
Dude, I,
hey,
I've
this guy
noticed that
knows
like
what he's doing. Like, take it a little
yeah.
slower, understand a little more of it. And we
Mhm.
both have been guilty of overreacting as well.
Oh
So I'm
yeah.
not. saying
Dude,
where
but
he's rated, but
I'm not gonna lie, like watching this season, like I've been watching it differently, just more of just like like I'm definitely not as nervous as I like was,
no, yeah,
watching regular season games. I'm just like, I trust what they're doing. Like as we're saying, like we just know Porter, like we now know that he's got like the maturity to be, fine with being benched at the end of the game. So it's just like whatever. Like
yeah,
I
it's
don't
so
really
crazy.
like care. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
it's
just
crazy
like
considering his development like is insane. I Tim McMahon, I think today on Brian Windhorst's pod, he called MPJ Dennis Rodman with a jumper, which is I don't think a comparison I would have ever dreamed Michael Porter Jr. getting at any point
right.
in his life,
Yeah.
getting compared to Dennis Rodman. But because he's been rebounding so well, like one rebound today, but he's like because everyone else was grabbing him, he just wasn't in the right spots. He had what 13 against Memphis, he had
Mm,
9 against OKC. Like he's been good at rebounding. He's really adapted into being like a do it all player. Like I'm
yeah.
not worried about his shooting. I saw someone tweet it the other day. They were like, "It's crazy thing about MPJ. Like we thought that anything you get plus his shooting is a plus because of how good of a shooter he is. Now it's like he does all these different things. If you get a good shooting game from him, like that's the add-on, which is crazy because now he's become a good defender. He's
Yeah.
become a great rebounder. His playmaking has been good this season, like legitimately good. He's making the right reads. He's not turning it over. So that's like for him to turn around from where he was in college and where he was his first couple seasons in the league is
Mhm.
really really cool. And that's a testament to Michael Malone. I don't know if there are any fire Malone guys out there after the playoffs. Well, I know my dad is one. I, so,
Still.
but
Wow.
well, if there are any, that this is a testament to that, like showing how off his development as a player is
Yeah.
testament to the coaching staff.
Yeah. Dude, I just saw this Jokic like stat because we gotta, just whatever. Talk about Jokic, obviously. But I was just like I just sorry, I just looked up Jokic stats, but his field goal percentage, like, all right, let me read you off these field goal percentages versus the Jazz, 12 for 16, Thunder, 12 for 16, Grizzlies 8 for 14, Lakers 12 for 22. And that's lower than what he shot last year. Like that's 61%. He shot 63% last year. Like 12 for 16, 12 for 16, 8 for 14, 12 for 22. And that's lower than last year. Like,
He's just
how?
like ridiculous. Like we've always known how good he was. We both have been preaching that he's been the best player in the league for almost like 3 years now.
Yeah.
But like it still catches me off guard sometimes. It's like, oh my god. Like there was a pass today. It was under the rim. I thought he like mishandled it, but it was one of those tap passes. Normally he does it, pass taps
Oh
to the
my.
corner.
Right.
He did it
Right. I
in the
saw it.
lane between like 3 people to Gordon,
Yeah.
like in the dunker, and I was like, oh my, what? I thought that was a mistake at first. I was
I
like,
know.
no,
I
that's Jokic.
know.
That's on
I
purpose.
did too. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he's just been amazing. Like he's been clutch too. Like the Grizzlies game, he was awful. Like he was awful the entire
Yes.
game. But in the last four, like 3 to 4 minutes, he had a huge three. Like he and Murray hit back-to-back threes. That pretty much sealed it. But incredibly clutch in that game. And then in this Jazz game, Jazz were within five with like 130 left, and then Jokic got that and one after Markkanen flopped. Um, to just end the game, like just like
Yeah.
that. So even if he's not having like a great game, I mean, you can just always count on him like at the end. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
He's just so like
I mean, like we're just like
I don't
so
like we
lucky.
gotta wait to for the playoffs probably to start making some of these more ridiculous claims. But it's like in terms of just ability and like IQ and peak of where he is right now, like it it's hard to not put him like top 20 all time. And it's becoming harder and harder to argue for guys underneath him where it's like, okay, hold on. Like I saw someone say like Steph is better right now than he was in his MVP seasons. And there is an argument to be made for that. Like he is a more well-rounded player than he was back then. But Jokic is very clearly better than Steph right now. So does that mean Jokic is peaking higher than Steph, who is probably the greatest offensive weapon ever? Like, is that a roundabout way of thinking about that? I don't know. I don't know.
Yes,
We'll have
yes,
to
he's
see for some more big games, see how the season unfolds. It is only 4 games in, but like, there's
dude.
gonna be some
I
uncomfortable argument.
I think he's peaking. I think he's peaking higher. Like, I mean, like. 24, 12, and 10. Like LeBron does, the classic 27, 7 and 7. Uh I mean, just obviously just looking at it like stat wise, and then, obviously putting together that incredible playoff run. And then winning the championship and winning finals MVP, averaged 30 points, 13 and a half rebounds, 9.5 assists. That's almost a 30-point triple double in the playoffs. Um, 16 and 4. Obviously the Warriors had that one. It was like 16 and 1, I believe. Right?
Yeah.
They went 16 and 1, I think, in the playoffs one
Yeah,
of
the
those years.
first year
But
they had KD, they went 16-1.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like 16 and 4 is an amazing playoff run. So like what can you say? Like, has there really ever been a playoffs like run like better than that in history?
I don't like
Um,
it's what
you
it's one of the
combine
most
that,
dominant. Like I don't know where you place it like rankings wise, but it's one of the most dominant. And I don't like it's hard. There's no argument against saying it's one of the most dominant. Like you can't say it's like oh it was a just a normal MVP. Like no, I know people say Denver faced a weak schedule, but if you look at the people on the court at the time that they're playing them, like they
yeah,
played the 8th seed, which was 1 seed. They're gonna play the 8th seed anyway, and then they played the 4th seed, the 1 seed that's the highest they could play. But then they the Lakers, who had one of the best records in the league in the second half of the season, who were not a normal 7th seed, and they beat the
yeah,
3 seed and the 6th seed. So they're not like a normal playing team. They're clearly better than what that seeding was, and they played only the second 8th seed to ever make it to the finals. So like,
yeah,
what,
yeah.
like what more do you want from real? Like
No,
he's just doing
exactly.
what's in front of him, and the people who are on the court when they're playing them, like Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo in the final two series, probably the two best big man defenders in the NBA, and
Hmm.
Jokic didn't
Dude,
even
like
see them.
you combine that with winning back-to-back MVPs, like players don't just win back-to-back MVPs. Like that doesn't happen. Like it's not common what he's doing, and it could have should have obviously everybody knows it should have been back to back to back MVPs. Like
Yeah,
that's not just like every like top 50 players peak. Like that's a very very few amount
yeah.
of people that can like reach that accolade wise, and just efficiency wise. Like that is what's crazy is you pair all of that with shooting 63% from the field. Like, are you serious? I mean, like people were clamoring over the 50-40-90 stat, which is like an insane stat. But like Jokic almost made it 60-40. Like, and then obviously his free throws is not up there, but like almost went 60-40. And he could do it this year. He's at 60-45 right now. Um, so I
He's
mean, there's
ridiculous.
like I think his peak is like top, like I don't know, like top five, bro. I mean, I don't know how like who else like rivals them. You got to think like LeBron, Jordan, um, but like even but it's still too early to say though. Like we don't know.
He's only
We
20.
don't
Like
know.
I think he legit has another like 4 years playing at this level before you can probably start to see him regress. Because yes, he doesn't need athleticism to like be great, and like that's not his game. But he's a big guy. Like his body is going to start to slow down. Centers don't necessarily always have the greatest longevity anyway. So you can expect him to slow down at some point just naturally. Like what LeBron is doing right now, what KD is doing right now, like that's not normal at all, especially for big men. So I think he's got like 4 more years like this until the stats
Dude,
probably
I'm
start to
I'm
drop
saying
a
he's
little bit
got
because
six.
he's gonna start just playing less,
Yeah.
essentially.
I'm saying he can go to 34, like at least looking like this. And I still think he
Yeah.
can like, and then maybe, 35, 36. It's kind of like prime Marcus Gasol, but like it's just the end of Jokic is just as good as prime Marcus Gasol, like that. And then he retires after that. Like that's what it could be. Um, Minus the defense, but um, like yeah. He's a beast.
We'll
And I
have to
mean,
just wait and see. That's the only thing we
exactly.
can do.
I mean,
Like I
because
just
if
like
he,
if Denver makes another deep run and if they make the finals, then you're gonna have to start having an argument like, okay,
well,
what
dude, I
now?
mean,
But
like,
if they win the finals, and especially if they win, I think beating Milwaukee, because right now I think it's a toss up between who's like era it is between Jokic and Giannis. I think Jokic probably has the edge on him. Obviously, we're biased. Like if you just look at straight accolades, that they're dead even, and Giannis is undeniably the better defender. And the accolades also support that. He's a defensive player of the year. He's got the all defense. But if Jokic beats Giannis in the finals, which is a very likely possibility considering I don't think anyone in the West has a shot at Denver
yeah,
currently. I think once again, long season, things can change later in the year, based on what trades happen or what injuries happen, the way teams just progress that season. But like I still don't think any team's gonna match up against Denver. If they go against the Bucks in the finals and they win, like that, you could legit argue top 10. I would say you could argue top 10 for
bro.
Jokic.
Dude, I think you could argue higher. I literally think you're like shooting too low. I'm even thinking like, Jordan is up there because he three-peated, twice. But if Jokic can, like, okay, this is talking, it's a couple years in the future. But if he can three-peat and he's putting up better numbers than Jordan, I don't know. No, I'm kidding. Jokic, I don't think he'll be the goat. Because, his career, he didn't score too much, enough at all in the beginning of like his first 5 years. Averaged 20 points like as his max. And that's just not going to be enough to be considered like that. But if we're talking peak wise, there is an argument I think that will be had in like 4 to 5 years, like a serious argument of whether this dude is like top three or better. I don't know, peak wise. But
You
yeah,
just have to,
won't get like many of the I mean, other than like the triple double records and like center records,
yeah,
he's
yeah.
not gonna be
His
like
like all
he's
time
not
records
gonna
he's
be
probably
like
gonna have.
top. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just because he started slow. Slow because he came off the bench for a season and a half, and Denver didn't make the playoffs a while, and he didn't really realize his potential as a scorer until the last
Yeah.
couple of seasons.
Dude, like God, it's crazy. It's crazy that we're like at this point now that he actually
I
did
know.
it. Because I just remember like watching it, and I'm just like, oh, he doesn't know how good he is, like scoring.
Yes. I've had that conversation with like all my friends, with my dad and my brother. I'm like, he just like I don't think he realizes how good he is. Like he never. I don't. I saw this tweet, and it was like those injuries that Denver had with Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. That 2 year span, it turned him into just a monster. Like he had to. He got like forced into being like, whoa, hold on, I can't be stopped. No, not I. Like I'm so good. He was forced into doing that, and now he just has counters on top of everything. He's seen every single type of defense. There's nothing that you can do like show him that he hasn't seen already. And like
Yeah,
he just got forced into being a monster. And now Denver got added two all-star caliber players, and
yeah.
also Calvin Booth just being a visionary in terms of uh, rejuvenating the roster around him. And it's just like, man,
Right. I mean, there was like a time like after, you know, going into the bubble, I guess, like we knew he was amazing, like, and we thought he was better than what he thought he was, but it was like, you know, he had that 20 point per game season in 18-19, and it's like, oh, I think 19-20 he's gonna like take that step up. And he didn't. Like he had a worse
yeah,
season straight up in 19 and 20. And it's just like I remember thinking at that point, like, maybe he just like I was hoping for him to be like an all-star. And I thought that was just kind of his ceiling. Like he's not like a, you know, move, like build everything around him type of championship like player. Um, but then man, the bubble and then yeah, he came out the next season just
yeah.
on
No,
fire.
that next season, that 2021 season, it could have gone a lot of different ways. Because like I think Jokic had a great bubble. Like obviously Murray did what he did, but Jokic also had a really good bubble.
Yeah,
But if they went into that season and Murray like stayed as good as he was in the bubble that next season, I know he was great, but if he like didn't start off slow and he's kept the season averaging like 25 game, then there'd be a legit conversation that season is like, oh, Jokic isn't even the best player on his team
Yeah, there
because of how
were.
good Jamal was.
There literally
But
were. Yeah.
like now it's like that, that's not even a question. Like it's not even close. Now he's best player in the league. Talking about how he is all time. Like there's so many different like what ifs you could go into, especially at that like little period of time.
Mhm.
Like yeah, what if Murray doesn't get injured? Well, what if like during the bubble, what if Mike Conley makes a shot? What if they don't call the backcourt in game one? Like so many little things can happen
Yeah.
where it's like, dang, everything led up
No,
to them
I
being where
know.
they are.
Like
So
there are just so many like butterfly effect moments. It's crazy how like far you can go back into stuff and like literally stuff that didn't involve your team immediately. It could be like a trade between two other teams that like ends up affecting your team. Like it's wild when you can break that down in sports. Um, yeah, I mean he's amazing. Nuggets 4-0, looking like the best team right now in the NBA.
I do want to say this.
Cruising.
We went through almost every single player on Denver. We didn't say Zeke Naji at all. I thought he had a
Oh yeah.
phenomenal game today. I know he's been really good as a backup five all season. I thought he struggled a little bit versus LA, but in the other games, I think he's been really, really good. He had a possession today where I mean, he the stat sheet hasn't been showing he's been rebounding well. I mean, he had his first rebound of the season against OKC, which is crazy. But today, I mean, he had an offensive rebound over like three guys and dunked on top of Walker Kessler, and he's been great. He's been attacking the rim. He's finishing. His free throws have been better.
Yeah, I
I
can't
think we're
remember
just
what.
not going to see the type of stretch guy that he was the first couple of
Yeah.
seasons. I think that this is who he is now, which kind of sucks, but he's what Denver needs right now, and I think he's been great. That's
I
one thing
think
I'd
it
want
was
to
the
talk about.
Grizzlies game where he drew at least two fouls, like defensive. I don't even know what they call those fouls, but like the fouls where they're trying to box out and then Najee forces
Yeah,
them into a foul um when they're boxing out. Like on so it's basically like a defensive rebound that he drew and he did it twice. Like I feel like in like the span of like 3 minutes. Um and yeah, that doesn't count on the stat sheet like for anything. Um, and he's been amazing. And then yeah, that play that he had against the Jazz was just nasty because I think like Markkinen or Kessler or even both of them were like in it too, and he just like skied over all of them and then dunked it on them too.
yeah. I mean, if he can just like get the shooting back even a little bit, it's gonna be great. But I don't think that we're gonna see it this season at least because he's just been playing in the paint, and Denver doesn't really need a stretch guy. So they're not gonna ask him to do that. He's not gonna be forced to do that at all. So I don't know if we're gonna see that. But if he can just like 1 to 2 threes a game, and he's back to that 40-45% level,
Yeah.
then like that he turns into a completely different
Tag
type
their
of player.
biggest lead.
Hmm?
I mean, that was a Lakers game. I don't know
Oh,
if you heard that.
a little bit.
um, Magic are up 80-72, by the way. But no, yeah,
Gary
I
Harris had
agree.
a phenomenal first half. Last I
Really?
checked, he had 14 points, was 5 of 5 from
Hey,
the field.
let's go,
I don't
Gary.
know what he's now.
Now I just want him like I wanted him to be a Nugget again. I just want him to succeed. Like now that we have the chip, I just want all these like former players to succeed now. Like Monte Morris, I'm cheering for him. I have no idea how he's been doing this year, but I'm cheering for him.
I don't even think he's
Um,
been playing. I think he's injured actually.
no shit. Um,
Yeah, but
even like seeing like Malik Beasley out there is still like kind of cool. But yeah. All right. Denver Broncos, as we were saying,
yeah,
snapped that streak against the Chiefs and did it like pretty handedly, like throughout the game. Patrick Mahomes held to one of the worst games of his career. Statistically, I feel like it looks worse than it actually was because he actually was like making some great throws. I thought like in the third quarter, like under pressure and stuff. Seemed like none of his receivers were really separating whatsoever. And that's like credit to Vance Joseph, credit to uh, the Broncos secondary. Shout out Jaquan McMillan. He's been
really good.
terrific um, at that nickelback position. And yeah, man. I mean, since the Miami game, Vance Joseph has turned it around defensively. You know, um, after that, I should say after the Bears game because allowing 28 to the Bears is embarrassing, but and 31 to the Jets, but uh, anyways, I feel like that Jets game. I'm trying to
That
remember.
Jets game is weird because they
It wasn't
they
even like
there was
many
like a
offensive.
fumble.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
fumble return for a touchdown, so that wasn't on them. And then they had a couple of turnovers in their own territory to put defense in the
yeah.
weird positions. But overall,
But
I personally I owe Vance Joseph an apology. I
yeah, I should
was
say
all for his head, but he's
the
been
last
good.
3 weeks, 19, 19, and 9, the Broncos defense has given up. But yeah, I guess I owe him an apology too. We will see because I don't know, it's the Broncos. I feel like they could still kind of crumble at any moment, but um, yeah, I mean, I really love the scheme that he had out there. Nick Benito was out there playing spy, which I love to see. Like you never really, anytime you're having a spy, you kind of think it's one of the linebackers, one of the off the ball linebackers, and not really a freaky like edge player. And so I loved having that speed of Benito to cover Mahomes and also have that ability to like if Mahomes is moving, behind the line of scrimmage, he can still rush and you use his great ability to maybe get around a running back or a tight end or one of the remaining, blockers out there. He had 4 quarterback hits, I believe. Yeah, 4 quarterback hits with 0 sacks, but that just goes to show you he was flying around everywhere. So I love that. I love kind of how they played Kelsey. He only had 6 for 58, which is awesome. Holding Travis Kelsey to that, but like I feel like they were kind of double teaming him a lot more, using McMillan, some of the quicker guys rather than like jewel on him all the time. It would be like McMillan and then another corner or McMillan and a linebacker, kind of bracketing him to keep him like within an area. So that was great. And then yeah, didn't give up really too many big plays. They gave up that one play to Rice for 39, but outside of that, um, nothing to complain about defensively.
Yeah, I wasn't able to watch it, but I did watch the highlights, and I Kelsey was the one thing where I was noticing. I was like, okay, he's not having that great of a game. One, because he's on my fantasy team, so I was keeping track of that. But two, because he like Denver always, I don't know what it is, but they always will play him straight up and one on one and
I know.
zone and like normal in the first half of games, and he'll have the 8 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown in the first half, and then the second half they'll adjust. And I think they finally today or yesterday they were like, okay, you know what, we're just gonna do that from the start. And they did
Yeah,
it from the start, and Mahomes struggled to find other people. Sky Moore dropped a wide open touchdown, like or not a wide open, but he dropped a touchdown, and that's kind of the state the of the Chiefs receiving core. Like they don't really have anybody who can make a play outside of Travis Kelsey. And take away Kelsey, and that Denver did as good of a job as they could have on him. You're going to force him to make other plays. Obviously, Mahomes being under the weather, I'm sure, played into it. And it was freezing in Denver, so the ball probably was just a rock and not the easiest to
yeah,
throw or catch or do anything with. So I'm sure those played into it. But like Denver's scheme was great. I watching the highlights, you could see Benito getting in the backfield a ton, and I think both of Baron Browning's sacks were a product of Benito forcing Mahomes out of the pocket and forcing him the other direction. Um, and Baron Browning making a play. And Denver's, I'm sure they're so happy to have him back because he's such a freak athlete, such a freak at edge rusher that being able to play him there and get something from the edge rusher position outside of Benito because Frank Clark wasn't doing it. Obviously, Randy Gregory wasn't doing it. So being able to have two guys who can give you production, huge. Getting Simmons back was huge. PJ
I think
Walker's been good. And
Jonathan Cooper's been good too. Honestly,
he's been I
on
forgot.
the
Yeah, Jonathan Cooper's been really really solid. Linebacker has been good. They did like I mean, biggest change they made was putting Fabian Moreau on the outside, taking out Damari Mathis, who I mean he had a good rookie season, but the biggest sophomore slump I think I've ever seen in my life.
yeah,
And they put in Jaquan McMillan there at nickel instead of Isang Bassi, and it's done wonders. It's
yeah,
done wonders for the defense. So
yeah. I
big
honestly,
props to Vance Joseph for being able to figure that out because that was that like this defense was legitimately one of the worst in NFL history until
right,
the
right.
past few weeks. So
I honestly like didn't even know Fabian Moreau was on the team until like a couple weeks ago. I think he was on the Commanders at some point, unless that's like another Moreau I'm thinking of, but I feel like it's the same guy. But yeah, him, and then the injury to Kawhi Williams too. Like I still think it's kind of a huge like underrated injury that the Broncos are dealing with, but it allows McMillan to have that chance. No Kareem Jackson ever since he's been ejected. The defense has looked good. I don't know if that's saying anything. I don't know if that's has any correlation. It might because I think PJ Locke is faster out there. And instead of delivering the big hits, Locke is PBUing, like knocking the ball out instead of being one step late. He's there one step early. So I think that's like a testament to the speed differential by those two players. Offensively, I really loved the game plan. Peyton, he talked about like wanting to run the ball more after one of these games where like Russell threw like almost 50 times or something and they didn't run it at all. I'm trying to remember what game it was, but anyways, 40 carries in this game is just beautiful. They had 23 against the Chiefs just a couple weeks ago. And relying on these two backs who I think are a serious, top one of the best duos in the NFL right now.
They're
Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin, like you really have to take advantage and realize like how good those two players are. And so when you have a two-headed monster like that, even though like I wish Jaleel would still get more carries. He only had four, and average 8 yards a carry. Like, and then it feels like he's doing that every game, like 8, 9 yards per carry, on few attempts. But every time he gets it, he does something with it. It's just like, yeah, I mean, his speed, his vision, so underrated. His cutting, and even like his strength. Like when he cuts, and if he does hit somebody like on a cut, he's gonna fall
comes
forward for
off of it.
another, yeah, for an extra two
Yeah.
yards. So like, he's been great. And then Javonte just being a bully ball, like just beast out there. I know he averaged 3 yards per carry, but he just punishes the defenders. Had a great touchdown reception, where he broke a couple tackles. So I like the way that he's looked. Russ only threw the ball 19 times. I kind of wish that they would like get into this type of offense where you're seriously a run first team, but then also like take more shots because when Russ finally did take two shots, it was both to Jerry Judy.
Yeah.
And obviously one was like a 40-yard catch, and then the other was like a 20-yard touchdown. And those were kind of, I feel like the two like bombs, I guess, like not like lob passes deep
Yeah.
down the field. Um, and they converted. So I kind of wish they would like have this running game and then also have the big play like more utilized in their offense because I feel like it hasn't been utilized as much as I wanted to, especially considering that it's Russell Wilson's biggest strength, um, is the deep ball. And like I don't think Peyton has been calling it as much as I kind of want him to. And I feel like it seems like Sutton is getting his like groove back and his hands back. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially going up and getting the ball. He had that Moss insane catch. With the way that he's playing, and then with Judy's speed, I think you need to take advantage of the deep ball more. Yeah,
Yeah, I've really like what I've seen from the offense over the past few weeks. Like you said, they're being run heavy. It was something that Seattle in the last few seasons where Russell was there, they really tried to utilize and it worked. The last year they tried to go pass heavy and obviously like so many injuries. So much happened last year you can't even like take anything from it. But Sean Payton, with how good he is and knowing systems as much as he does, he figured it out pretty quickly. Like, all right, they just got to run it. Javante Williams, he's come back from injury better than I had anticipated. Honestly, is much better than I thought he would look to start the season. He's gotten his groove back since the beginning of the year. McMillan, I agree with you. I think he needs more carries. He's incredible. But if Javante's playing like he has been over the past few weeks, like why not give him the ball? But McMillan's really, really good, or McLaughlin's really, really good. I really like him. The change of speed that you get from him
yeah,
um, versus Javante is crazy. I mean, he's fast, but he's not like you can tell it's like a different level of speed when you have McLaughlin in there, and he hits the hole hard. He's got good vision too. Like normally, a lot of guys who are just speed backs, they just want to bounce it out and go, but he's going through the tackles and he's getting his yards in between the numbers, which is something that you don't really see from young, fast running backs a lot, and he's doing that really, really well.
for
Um,
sure.
and he jumped Pirine like almost instantly. The second he started getting regular touches, he jumped Pirine on the depth chart.
Yeah,
So I think Sean Payton's done a really, really good job recognizing the strengths of the offense, and he's been putting it together. Not scoring a ton of points, but they're being really, really efficient
yeah,
with their drives, and it's that's the same thing. Like either you score really quickly and get a ton of points, like you were early in the season, or if you score, but you don't have a lot of drives, but you're scoring whenever you can. It's the same thing. So
yeah.
I'm really happy with the way that's looked. Uh, bye week comes at a great spot. I think like the most interesting part about the team isn't on the field; it's what could potentially happen off of it. Like yesterday's win, yeah, it's a feel good win, and it really helped your chances in terms of trying to get to the playoffs. But like, it really screws up things in terms of are you a buyer, are you a seller? Because at 3-5, you're like, oh, you have no idea. You have no idea what you want to do.
Right.
What do you think Denver like after the win and having some time to digest it? Like, what do you think Denver should do? Do you think they go for it, or do you think they stand still? Do you think they
I think they
act?
literally just stand still and just like see what happens. Because you can't buy at 3-5. Like that, you just can't. That's too risky. And then, but I also think that they feel like that they can go on a run. And if they feel like they can go on a run, then they shouldn't sell. I'm not saying that I believe that they can go on a run, but hey, maybe. I mean, um, they're looking a lot better. It was that Jets game that I was talking about earlier, where Peyton wanted to run the ball. The leading rusher in that game was Jaleel McLaughlin. He had 9 carries, and Russ had 7. P. Ryan had 6, and obviously they lost that game. But they averaged 6 yards a carry when they did run it, and only ran it 22 times. This game they run 40 times, so pretty much just like completely flipped what they wanted to do offensively, um, which obviously worked out. Um, but yeah, in terms of the trades and stuff, I think you let it play out. Honestly, like you gave Sutton that big contract. I don't know if teams are going to be reluctant to want to trade for that. Um, and like I also feel like these past couple of games, he's kind of like proving why he could, be maybe worth that contract anyways. So, um, yeah, I think they stand still.
Yeah, I probably agree with you. Everything Sean Payton's been saying in the media. I mean, we haven't really seen a lot of him. Like, we know Michael Malone when he talks in the media, he lies a lot. I don't know. We haven't been around Sean Payton long enough to know if he's lying to us whenever he says something in press conferences. But I mean, everything that he has said is like we're not taking calls. Like we're listening to calls. We're not actively shopping anybody. Um, and the fact that they haven't made any big moves yet, I probably believe that if they were going to tear it down, it would be after the Chiefs loss. Like you're 1-5 after that game. You have a long break until you have 10 days until your next game. If they were going to trade anybody, they probably would have been aggressive at that point. Um, but they didn't do anything then. They're probably not going to make any rash decisions until tomorrow's deadline or by tomorrow's deadline. But that's kind of the big decision that they're at right now. Their
Yeah,
schedule is it's not easy going forward. But with some of I mean, just looking and going forward through it, it's not exactly like impossible to see them trying to make a run. I'm trying to bring it up right now. So
they, I mean, yeah, they
they're
have the
at the bye
Bills
right now.
who, yeah, the Bills
Then
haven't been,
they go Buffalo
right,
on Monday night next or not next week, but on the 13th. Then they're at home against Minnesota, who no Kirk Cousins. We don't really know what's going to happen with them. They could potentially be a big time seller going forward. Um, at home against Cleveland, we'll see how that one goes. Um, and at Houston, who's played well. At the Chargers, at Detroit, which could be that's gonna that depending on how this goes, that could be a big time matchup. But we have no idea what's gonna happen with that one. Detroit looks really good right now, so that's gonna be a tough game regardless. At home against New England, at home against the Chargers, and they end on the road at Vegas. So they have like a like a 5 game stretch: Buffalo, Minnesota, Cleveland, Houston, LA, or 6 game stretch, and then Detroit out of this bye where it's tough. Um, but if their defense holds after the bye week and they stay playing well, and the offense can just get that one big play, one extra big play per game, 1 to 2 extra big plays per game, I really think that um they can make a run. I Now, will they make a run and make the playoffs? I don't know, because the AFC is ridiculously competitive. Um, like the AFC North could potentially have 3 playoff teams. The AFC East could potentially have 3 playoff teams. The West could potentially have 3 playoff teams. The South might have a couple playoff teams. Like, you don't know what it's going to look like um, at the end of the year, but yeah, they
Yeah.
make a run. It, if they can get through that stretch above 500, I think that they have a shot at making a run at the playoffs.
Yeah. So I was trying to look up like points per drive because I feel like that's one of the best ways to determine an offense, but I guess you have to pay for that stat. So the next
That's dumb.
best thing that I could like find, just like efficiency wise for an offense, points per play, Denver's 10th, like ahead of Kansas City, ahead of Detroit, um, just a couple spots behind Philadelphia and Baltimore. So like they're right in it, like with some good teams in the NFL offensively. It's just how brutal that defense was. And then some mistakes and in the earlier Chiefs game and in the Jets game when the defense was playing, decently well. Just dumb mistakes. So you combine, terrible defense, dumb mistakes. All of a sudden, you're 3-5. But you look at it from the positive side. They're a top 10 offense statistically, and over the past 3 games, 19, 19, and 9 defensively. So like, you know, that combines out to be a pretty good team in the last 3 games. Um, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see at Buffalo, who hasn't been playing, extremely well, lost to the Patriots, and then uh kind of squeaked out a game against the Buccaneers, but it was like it needed a Hail Mary, but like it was also a closer game than it should have been. But I think they're beatable this year for sure. And especially if I really really love that linebacking trio or edge trio of Benito, Browning, and Cooper. I think that they can kind of hopefully nullify like what Josh Allen will do, breaking tackles and stuff in the backfield because all three of them are freaks and big, and I think have the speed of Josh Allen and have the strength of Josh Allen to be able to bring him down and not let him really get outside. So I think that's a pretty good matchup for them. The Bills haven't been running the ball, which is good considering that the Broncos run defense hasn't been good. Um, and so that plays out well. It plays out well that the Bills only look at Stephon Diggs on offense. Kincaid has had a bigger role recently, which is kind of concerning, and maybe he could have a big night. They guarded Kelsey well, but they were getting rid of the number one option. Maybe if it is a tight end that's not necessarily the number one option, maybe he has a big game as tight ends usually tend to do against Denver. So like Kincaid, you got to watch out for, but Surtain on Diggs, you got to feel confident about that matchup. If you're Denver, like you just got to let them, do their thing. Maybe help out Surtain for most of the game as well, because the Bills don't really have anything else to threaten you other than like a Gabe Davis one bomb per game, like 130-yard touchdown per game. It seems like if you can get rid of that, he doesn't really offer anything. So honestly,
That's
now
why
that I'm
Buffalo as a whole, like they're an offense that really works off big plays. They're not an offense that
yeah,
goes like, okay, first down, second down, first down, second down, third down, first. Like, they don't work in sequences. They're always trying to look for that over the top
right.
big player, that screenplay that catches you off guard and goes
And they're
goes for the touchdown.
they're just so like Josh Allen reliant too. Like they need him to make perfect throws down the field and they need him to pick up first downs with his legs. But I think as you saw in the Chiefs game, like they had Mahomes scrambling a lot, especially in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
They had him kind of looking silly out there, and I feel like they can, kind of do that to Josh Allen, hopefully. And Josh Allen obviously has those moments of looking like you have no idea what he's doing out there. at some point. So hey, maybe there's an interception. So I'm kind of talking myself into this. But obviously at Buffalo, extremely hard place to play Monday night too. Um, Bills will probably be favored by like a touchdown and a half, I would say. So still definitely the underdog, but I think the matchup is actually kind of good for Denver in this game.
Yeah, they definitely have a chance. And like it's football's so weird. Like it because there aren't as many games, every game matters so much more, but every game can change momentum and change like the way you look at a team so much
I
more.
know.
Like Denver has not been a good team this season, but they've won 2 games in a row and they've looked
Yeah.
good in those 2 games. So you're like,
It,
oh, hold on.
it's
And then
crazy
you
how
realize,
like
okay, they're 3-5 and they allowed 70 points to a team earlier
dude,
this season.
it's crazy how like a 2 game win streak in the NFL makes you feel so good. Like compared to just like the Rockies just randomly winning two in a row. It's like,
Yeah,
okay. Who cares in
it's
baseball?
crazy.
But yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But we will see what happens then. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Like we both said, I we don't think anything insane is gonna happen. I doubt they trade Judy. I doubt they trade Sutton. Um, I don't. I like the other thing is I don't think any of those guys are on contract years either. So you're not exactly
Yeah.
forced to
That's what I'm thinking too, right?
look at them and be like, oh, like we got to get like he's not gonna resign. We got to get something back for him. Where it's like, no, you're gonna have Bowles. I think another year. Um, and he's also coming off injury. Like you have him for another year. You have Simmons for another few seasons. Sutton still has another 2 years on his deal. I'm pretty sure. Jerry Judy's still in a rookie contract. Like he hasn't even been extended yet. Like you have time to make decisions with these guys. There's no reason to be in a rush for it.
Yeah.
And if Sean Payton's telling the truth, they're not going to make anything drastic. Maybe only thing I think they might do, maybe they go and get somebody interior, like some depth defensive lineman for a seventh round pick or something like that. I don't know. That's probably the only thing I could see them
Yeah.
doing where
Yeah.
they try and do something to potentially shore up the run defense. But linebackers been playing good, secondary's been good. The offensive line has improved as the season has gone on. I didn't see any angry tweets about Mike McGlinchey yesterday, which is I think the first time all season. So that's improvement at the
Yeah.
very least. And the receiving core is good. They just have to get the ball. Like that's the only issue that they have. Like if they get the
Yeah.
ball, they're fine. It's just getting them that's been the issue. But they've been getting it the past few games. So
Yeah. Dude, this whole time I thought it was a Frank Clark like revenge game. I thought he was there the entire time. Turns out he's
you
not even
think
on the Chiefs. He's not even on
no?
the Chiefs.
Yeah, he
He's on the
signed with
Seahawks.
Seattle on like Friday or something.
I thought he signed with the Chiefs already. Like I wanted to win that game so bad to make Frank Clark pissed, and yeah, it turns out he's not even on the team. I'm like, damn, true,
Yeah.
but
I mean, everything was pointing towards him going to the Chiefs. Like he was
I
gonna
know.
visit
So I
them. Like
just
he didn't work out with them, and then I
I
don't know
just
what happened.
assumed, yeah.
No, weird guy that Frank Clark. Apparently, who knows what he's thinking
He
about
went to
now. But
Michigan. I mean, it's expected.
yeah. Do you see they're rescinding Harbaugh's contract?
Yeah, yeah.
What is that? What does that? Does that mean like his current contract? So is he not getting
I don't
points,
know.
or is it his extension?
He came out in a press conference today. He was like, I wouldn't say that there's any truth to that. Like that's all he said. Like, okay, he just wouldn't say that there's any truth to that. But I think it was like they had offered him a 5-year deal. And now they just kind of took it away. So,
Okay,
but
okay.
they might have, I mean, they should just rescind like his current contract. I mean,
It's not great. Anytime there's some type of scandal like that, and the head coach is like, I have no idea. Like, okay, you're lying. Like,
yeah,
you're the head coach. It might have
yeah,
not been your idea, but you knew about it, or at the very least, you willfully ignored it. Like,
right,
you
right.
have a you have a place in it.
Yeah,
Um,
especially to that degree where like now the FBI is involved. It's like,
yeah,
okay.
they got a
But
lot of
you
stuff
didn't know
going on.
about it.
Yeah, no, they got a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, at first I thought it was just like, oh, like there's just someone going there, like looking at the signals. I was like, oh, that's not bad. But then I was like, oh, they're recording it.
Yeah,
Oh, and this
dude.
dude's going to every single game of their opponents and recording. Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Oh wait, he's like paying other people to let him into their. It's bad.
Yeah, exactly.
It got
That
worse.
article, there's like the ESPN article that just kept getting worse and worse. I'm like, no way. And then people started finding his Venmo account and just like,
That thing was funny. Like
yeah,
you kept paying for like shirts, like you kept buying
I
shirts for
know,
people to like
I
blend
know.
in with the crowd.
Yeah, exactly. Just like every day he needs a batch of shirts
Yeah.
that he's just randomly paying other Michigan assistants and interns to. Yeah. We'll see what happens there. Yeah, we'll see. But all right, I mean, does that do it? Little Denver sports update?
I think so. I think that that does it for now. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm gonna be able to watch the next Broncos game, which really blows. I have to do stream team that day. We'll see what
Uh,
I can do to
yeah,
sneak in some game time during that. But um, yeah. Until then, we'll try and keep Nuggets updates as they come. Um, and yeah, our next stream will probably assume will just be after that Broncos game at some point. So yeah,
yeah.
we will see you guys.